This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. It's Monday, October 18. This is Len Sierra, moderating the high-risk recurrent advanced prostate cancer group from ANCAN. And we're going to start off with our first newcomer, Rick Ernst. So Rick, I'm going to ask you a few questions and just answer the questions as I ask them, so we make sure you stay in chronological order. How old are you, Rick?
I'm 74.
Okay. And where do you live?
I live in Green Valley, Arizona.
Oh, that's right. How close is that to you, Rick?
Very. It's very close. And I think, Rick, I think you've been on here before. I'm sure we've spoken.
Are you in Tubac?
Yeah, I live in Tubac, right. I'm just looking you up, but I'm sure that you've been in this group before. Or maybe I've just talked to you in the Tubac. It's probably I've just talked to you in the Tucson group. So
okay. So Rick Ernst, how did you hear about ANCAN?
It was an email. I don't know who sent it to me or how I got it. I don't know.
Okay. Rick, when were you first diagnosed?
I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in October of 2017. My PSA in the year previous to that had gone from 4 to 34.
Wow.
And my Gleason score was 9. And because of the imaging that they took at that time, my cancer had spread to my bones. So I have stage 4 prostate cancer.
Okay. Do you know how many bone mets you had, Rick?
The number of bone mets?
Metastases.
Oh, I would say there's probably 15.
Okay.
They're all over from my legs to my skull.
So you're seeing a medical oncologist?
No, I'm seeing a urologist. I've been treated by the Arizona Institute of Urology since October of 17.
Okay, you're going to upset Rick Davis upon hearing that. We're going to have to move you to a medical oncologist, but we'll get to that later. What do you recall what type of scan they performed when they discovered your bone mets?
Well, it was a CT scan and a full body scan.
MRI?
Yeah, MRI, yeah.
Okay, okay. And did they find cancer in any lymph nodes or anywhere else besides?
No.
Just the bones?
Just the bones.
Okay. So tell me, what treatment did they start you out with?
I started out with Firmagon. It was a shot in my butt every month. I did that for basically 2 years.
Firmagon is usually given subcutaneous in the belly. You sure it was Firmagon?
You're right. It's in the belly. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
I'm now on Eligard every 6 months, and I'm one of the chosen few, 265 of us, who are in a clinical drug trial, and it's a stage 3 clinical drug trial for VERU-111. I started that in July of this year.
Oh, very good. Well, hopefully you got good results from that. We remember hearing about that at the GU-ASCO meeting. I think it was last spring.
Uh-huh.
It's an oral form of chemotherapy, if I recall.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
Was it?
I don't know. I don't think it's chemotherapy. I think it's an ADT, but I don't know what it is.
No, it's some form of chemo. It's either docetaxel or something else, but I think it's docetaxel. But anyway, so you started you were diagnosed in 2017 with a PSA of 34. And
Right.
what is it now?
So right now, the latest reading that I've had, and this is back in July 15th, it's back up to 108.
Move away from the meeting. My virtual. No, no, no. You didn't. You didn't. No.
Hey, could you mute Rick?
I'm looking for him, but I can't find him. No, here he is. Okay, got him.
Okay, thanks. So I'm sorry, Rick Ernst, what was your latest PSA and when was it?
July 15th, it was 108. It's been low and it's been going up recently.
And you're still in the Veru 111 trial?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So aside from that and the Eligard, are you taking any other hormone therapy?
Well, I mean, I take pravastatin and levothyroxine, but that doesn't really have anything to do with
No.
prostate cancer. No, no, there's no other medication. That's right.
Okay. So you're in this clinical trial and you were enrolled by a urologist?
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
The Arizona.
Rick, what was the lowest your PSA got down to after you were diagnosed?
Oh, okay. It was less than 1. I mean, it was just you couldn't detect it really. But what happens with these drugs is they work for a while and then they don't work. And then we change medications. And so that's been my history for the last 4 years.
So when did it go down below 1?
Oh, probably in 2018. I'd have to look at my notes here to tell you exactly, but yeah, back then, yes.
2018. So it's been on the rise since 2018.
Right.
And they never put you on a second line anti-androgen, something like abiraterone or apalutamide or enzalutamide, nothing like that?
No, no. Mm-mm.
See,
No.
this is why you should be with a GU medical oncologist. Okay, so, and you haven't had any additional scans since you were first diagnosed?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had scans all the way up and it shows that there's a growth in not only where it was before, but additional. The latest scan showed that it's in my eye sockets up here.
Okay. Rick, did you ever have any genetic analysis of your tumor, either?
Yes, I did. It's not, my dad died of prostate cancer, but there's nothing in my genes to show that I'm liable for that.
Okay, so nothing inherited, but what about any mutations in the tumor cells itself?
No, there's been no mention of that, if there was.
Do you know if they took a biopsy of your, well, I mean, did they analyze a sample of your, well, let me start with this. Did you ever have a biopsy?
Yeah, that's how they found out I was Gleason 9.
Right, okay. And they never did a genetic analysis on that biopsied tissue?
I don't know the answer to that question. If they did, I don't know about it.
When you had the genetic analysis that showed there were no mutation, was that a blood test or a swab?
Boy, I forget. I don't remember.
Okay. All right, so before we open it up to the group, Rick, do you have any specific questions for us?
Okay, so I walk around with a cane. I need to be very, very careful that I don't fall, so I'm not in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I have trouble swallowing because I'm a cancer survivor from 20 years ago where I had cancer at the base of my tongue. So I've been very successful at swallow therapy also. 3 weeks ago, I was rushed to the local hospital here because I couldn't control my hands, and they diagnosed it to be pneumonia. And I took medication for 5 days. I was not sick. I was not tired. I had no other symptoms, but and I'm going back for another chest X-ray in, I think, 1 or 2 weeks to see if it's all cleared up. I walk about 20 minutes a day. My muscle tone has deteriorated a lot. I've lost weight, so I drink 2 Ensures a day along with the other food that I eat. I'm not particularly hungry when I eat, and my goal is to maintain my body weight and not lose any more. I've lost approximately 20 pounds in this. I'm 6'1" and I weigh about 175. So that's what my urologist is talking about. I'm on an antidepressant, so I'm not crying all the time, and that seems to be working. I'm in La Posada, which is a continuing care retirement community, and they've been very helpful in different things that need to be done around here. So I estimate that I've received the 2-minute warning, or I'm in the 9th inning, and I don't know whether that means 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, but it's not going to be a long time because the pain from the bone cancer is really getting to me. I'm taking Advil every 4 hours or Tylenol and for the pain, and I take them previous to the point that I'm in pain. And I'm in the process of calling my primary care physician for some stronger pain medication because the bone pain is just excruciating.
All right, Rick, I'm very sorry to hear that. And I'm glad you came to us because I'm pretty sure every guy on the call right now is thinking to themselves, you need to see a GU specialist for medical oncology, GU being genito-urinary. You should not be treated by a urologist. A medical oncologist with a specialty in GU would be much more knowledgeable about what to do in your condition. And because I see in the chat box, Rick tells me that he has a bit of a history on you. He said you were with our group in January of this year. So I think I'm going to turn this over to Rick for follow-up questions. Rick Davis, that is. Maybe you have to unmute him, Jake, or maybe I can do it. Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a call from somebody which I had to take, so I missed a little bit of the interim, Rick. But I do know that back in July of this year, when you first spoke to us, we suggested that you speak to Dennis Correa, who I think is on the call tonight, but I'm not sure. And is Dennis with us tonight?
I'm here, Rick.
Yeah, did you and Rick ever speak about did he get in touch with you? Did the two of you ever speak?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, because we at the time we urged you to see a GU medical oncologist and that Dennis would speak to you about Mayo. there's a couple of issues here. First of all, you need more support than you're getting. You shouldn't be in pain. And one of the reasons why you shouldn't be in pain is because you should have a palliative care doc on your team, and you don't. You shouldn't be having to call your PCP about this. This is really something that Arizona Oncology should have, I'm sorry, the urologist should have suggested to you. But again, you know, when you're with a urology practice, they don't think about that. Secondly, as was correctly stated, this Vera 111 is a chemotherapy. It's not a hormone drug. And I did not hear what was your PSA again when you started the Vera 111?
It was about 40. I can look that up to be.
It's okay. That's close enough for government work.
Pretty high.
Jake. And I can say that because Herb's fishing tonight. And what is it right now, Rick?
108.
Okay. So it doesn't sound to me like this is doing the right thing, this Vera 111, at least for you. And so you may not be in the ninth innings, but you will be if you don't get yourself proper care. And what we would suggest right now is that you, as quickly as you can, you get an appointment with, I would suggest Alan Bryce, BRYCE, at Mayo in Phoenix. And if necessary, they can always work with a local oncologist, which is what Dennis does. Dennis sees Dr. Singh there. You may have heard of Parminder Singh. He used to be at U of A, and he's gone up to Mayo. They'll work with somebody local at Arizona Oncology as well, so you don't have to go, you know, you don't have to go 2 hours and 20 minutes up to Phoenix each time. And let's get you onto something that seems to be working, because whatever you're on right now ain't doing the job, and there's a lot of stuff out there that might do the job for you.
Okay, just so you know, Rick Davis, I told you this when we talked before, but I have chosen not to undergo oncology and chemotherapy. That's my decision in this disease.
Yeah, you're undergoing it right now.
Wait a minute, let me talk. I've chosen not to go under that because I've seen what it's done to my father and other people and their compromised position. So I think it's unfair to expose my body to oncology at this stage of the game.
Okay.
It's just, and it's cruel.
Okay, I heard you, but you're doing that right now with the Vera 111. That's what you're doing. It doesn't, sometimes it comes in pill form, sometimes it comes in an infusion. Because it comes in pill form doesn't mean that. This is exactly what you are doing. And that's why you're complaining and you're in pain. And we can help that. So, you know, just because it doesn't get infused doesn't mean it's not chemotherapy, Rick. This is chemotherapy that you're going through.
Well, Rick Davis, I mean, is it possible that he's in a control arm in this trial?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they've told me that I'm getting the actual drug. There
Okay.
is 2 control groups alongside of me, but I'm getting the drug.
Well, the only thing that I would then say is that if you don't want to be in chemotherapy, you should stop that drug as soon as you can and get yourself into a palliative care facility and hold tight.
All right. I'm reading from the information sheet and informed consent form that I was given before I took this drug. In no place does it say it's chemotherapy. I don't know where your information is coming from, but I'm reading what they've told me.
What do they tell you it is?
This study is a randomized, active controlled phase 3 study of VERU-111 for the treatment of metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer in patients who have failed prior treatments with at least one androgen receptor targeting agent.
Okay, but but nowhere in that statement do you describe what VERU-111 is. It doesn't address that. It doesn't tell you it's hormone therapy. It doesn't tell you it doesn't tell you what type of treatment it is. That treatment is chemotherapy.
Okay, all right. Well, I did not know that. I don't
is
know everything
chemotherapy.
there is about treatment of my prostate cancer.
I'm sorry?
I do not know every answer and every treatment regarding my prostate cancer.
You know, we can only help you to the extent that we can navigate you to the extent you want to be navigated, Rick. And we had this conversation in January, and I remember at the time you said you didn't want to go through chemo, and we said we still recommend that you go and see a GU medical oncologist. And we still recommend you go see a GU medical oncologist. You have the discussion with them. You can confirm with them that VERU-111 is a chemo. You can confirm with your urologist that VERU-111 is a chemo.
Okay, all right.
So
how is
the
that?
last thing I would say is please get a palliative care doc onto your team as soon as possible.
Oh, I'm not worried about that. That's right here where I live. I'm not concerned about that at all.
Well, but you should be because you're in pain. And a palliative care doc is going to address the pain. Palliative care does not mean end of life, Rick.
All right, all right.
Palliative care means it's a doctor who helps treat your symptoms.
Right, okay, all right. So I don't get it. I just don't get it. If you claim my VERU-111 is chemotherapy, why would I need to go to this Alan Bryce at the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix?
Because it's not working.
Well, we don't know that. I've only been taking it for about a little over 2 months. It's a 24-month drug trial.
Okay, I would just say that if your PSA has risen from 40 to 108 between July when you started and October right now, I would say that's pretty good reason to say it's not working. I'm not a doctor, I may be wrong, but look, we've got 43 people in this group. Maybe we should let some of the rest of them speak to you a little bit before we move on.
Okay, anybody want to ask Rick Ernst some questions, or do you have advice?
I can at least give Rick my background. I'm 75. I was diagnosed in February of 2019, and I'm a Gleason 9, and I have bone metastasis from my sacrum to my head, right up through the spine, totally. And Rick, I live in San Carlos, Mexico. So I drive, as a matter of fact, we stay overnight in Green Valley. Sometimes, not very often, but I am on Eligard with Zytiga and prednisone. And I've been on that for the last 2.5 years. My PSA is undetectable still. Now I go, just like Dennis Correa does. I go to Dr. Singh in Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, but he has an oncologist that he works with in Tucson by the name of Dr. Raphael. So I see Dr. Raphael every 3 months, and then every 6 months go and see Dr. Singh. And so he kind of controls it. But then I have a palliative care doctor who has helped me with any of the pain that I have and any issues with, well, any issues at all where I may need some medication. So I'm very similar to you, except I'm not on a, I went right to a oncologist. I mean, I went right to Dr. Singh. I bypassed my urologist. And my urologist is in Tucson. And I'm not sure he's part of the same group that you are in. His name is Dr. Killian. But that's my history, okay? Just to let you know. I agree with Rick Davis totally. You really do need a urinary medical oncologist, and you've got him in Tucson. I only know Raphael. I don't know if Dennis knows any more or not, but I'll turn it over to Dennis.
Yeah, I pretty much almost the same story as Jerry. My PSA wasn't as high as his when I got diagnosed, but I still am, went through chemo with docetaxel, had a little bit of a rough time with it, I'll be honest with you there, but they reduced my dose. I got through the full course of it. And a year later, it started to grow back again, and we had to add the second line anti-androgen, Zytiga, and that stops other forms of testosterone being used by the tumors. And I've also just recently done some palliative radiation to some bone mets at the base of my spine, and that was done here in Tucson. And it's the Arizona Blood and Cancer radiation oncologist there, Dr. Orton, O-R-T-O-N. And I really think, you know, you need to look at stay a little bit open to the chemo, if you could. With a disease like we have, where it's metastasized to many sites, you do need some form of chemo. I used docetaxel, which worked well for me. It was a little stronger than what I could tolerate initially, but we stopped it quickly, reduced the dose, and got through it. So I just come off of a year. I finally get mine back down to less than detect for several years, and then decided to take a drug holiday to get a little bit more relief from some of the side effects of the Zytiga and the Lupron at the time I was on. So now my PSA started to rise again. So I'm back on a number of things here, going back with Eligard instead of the Lupron, some of the same drug. And the other thing that I've just recently done is I contacted my doctor and asked about testing of somatic testing. This is genetic testing in addition to the one that sees if you had any inherited mutations. These are the somatic mutations, things that occur to your body during your lifestyle and your lifetime that produce also mutations. It won't show up when you do just the spit test or that type of thing for the inherited mutations. So I'm waiting for the results. I'll be going over that with my doc and see where we go from there. But I guess the best advice I can give you is to try to keep an open mind to the chemo. systemic type treatment.
This is John. I'm in Connecticut. I think what, if I understand right, from what you saw your dad go through, the name of the game is not to suffer needlessly. And if we could go back with our modern drugs and treat him, we would make sure that he did not suffer needlessly. So maybe the principle here is not so much to eliminate a certain class of drugs, which are, after all, different than they were back then. But the principle is to make sure that you don't suffer needlessly. So you may have some bone pain now, and the principle is not to suffer from that needlessly. And maybe the way to do that is have the proper medications or have a palliative care doc or a pain specialist to make sure that you don't suffer needlessly. If the bone pain is due to progression of prostate cancer metastases, then you do whatever it takes to regress that cancer so that you don't suffer needlessly. So that if you have 6 or 12 or 18 or whatever months left, they're as pleasant as they can possibly be. So that's all I would suggest, is to make the mission not to suffer needlessly rather than make the mission not to take a particular class of drugs.
All right, Rick, you got good advice there from John. You got good advice from Rick Davis. We're going to have to move on, my friend, because we have another new member to get to, and we have so many guys who want some time. Please come back next week. But the message to you now is please find a GU medical oncologist. Some of the names were mentioned, and you know, they are the experts. Let them evaluate your case and recommend whatever treatment is appropriate, and then you decide if you want to do it or not. But please do come back next week. Let us know, or whenever, and let us know how you're doing, okay?
Thanks, Len.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
And nice to meet you.
Same here. We're going to move next to Bill Bradford. Bill, are you ready? I'm going to go through the same set of questions I just asked Rick. And
Yep.
are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So how old are you, Bill?
I am 56.
56. Where do you live?
I live in Houston, Texas.
Okay. You got a lot of good facilities there.
Yes.
How did you hear about ANCAN?
So I was referred, I've got a good friend, Wendell Carpenter, and David Muslin.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we went through that. Okay.
Yep. So he sent some contact information through Wendell to me.
Right. So when were you diagnosed, Bill?
I was diagnosed in May of this year.
This year, okay. And what was your Gleason score and PSA level at the time of diagnosis?
Yes, so my Gleason was 9, 4+5.
Right.
And yeah, I had a biopsy at that time. They did an MRI. So going back 3 years, I had some borderline PSA levels, 4, 4.1. At the time, my general doctor said, well, we can be conservative and I can send you to a urologist, or we can just monitor your PSA every 3 months. And I said, well, let's do that. Well, that was the wrong choice. This was 3 years ago, and every quarter, 4, 4.2, 3.8, 4.4. I mean, there was never a significant increase. And then all of a sudden in March of this year, it was 5.9. Again, not a huge number, but it was a considerable increase. And my doctor said, that's it. You're going to see a urologist. Went to see a urologist. He said, well, 5.9 is definitely something we need to look at, but don't be overly concerned. Well, so he did an MRI, and he said, your MRI came back as risky. Well, they give it a risk score, and yours was as risky as it goes. They saw a lot of things, not only on your prostate, but your seminal vesicles that don't look good. So we're going to do a biopsy. We need to do it ASAP. So I think a week later I had a biopsy and it came back, 4+5. Said we need to do a prostatectomy. Your other choice is radiation, but given your age and given the severity of what we're seeing, we would recommend prostatectomy. I did have a bone scan, and during the biopsy, they checked the lymph nodes. The bone scan came back clear. All of the lymph nodes came back clear. So we thought I was a good candidate for the prostatectomy, which I had in June, and was considering that was going to be all I would need to go through. 6 weeks later, I had my first post-op PSA, and it was 0.8, which was disappointing. But the doctor said, well, let's not be overly concerned. Let's give it a couple weeks and check it again. 2 weeks later, it was 1.2. And he said, okay, there's something going on. He said, there was a bit of a positive margin on the prostatectomy, but he said, I don't think this is coming from that area. There's got to be either in a lymph node or in the bone. So I want to have a PET CT. What is it? Fluvoxamine or something like that. I don't know. Something that causes that. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So he said, we need to do that. And I said, okay, this was through the urologist at this point. I said, I'm going to actually get a second opinion from MD Anderson. So I went to MD Anderson, and they got all the results, and they said, yeah, you need to have the PET CT scan. We totally agree. And so I did, and that showed a single metastases in the iliac crest, I guess one of the bones. That it was a single lesion. And so the radiology oncologist at MD Anderson said, given that it's now stage 4, it's metastasized, you need to go see a medical oncologist. So he referred me to a medical oncologist within MD Anderson. And I started Eligard 6 weeks ago. And the final PSA check they gave me before I started the Eligard 6 weeks ago, my PSA was 2. And I've been on it now for 6 weeks. I had a PSA last week, and it was undetectable, which was great news. But he did also want me to start Zytiga with prednisone. And he wanted me to start a couple weeks ago. I said, well, I wanted to at least get a baseline PSA just to see how things were going from the Eligard itself. And as I said, it came back undetectable, and my testosterone had gone from like 480 to 3. But I did start the abiraterone and the prednisone last week. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And how are you tolerating the hormone therapy?
Yeah, so other than the most significant thing is the impact to my sex drive, which we're dealing with. I consider myself pretty physically fit and pretty physically active. I go to the gym several times a week, weightlifting, cardio. Thus far, over 6 weeks, any fatigue or any loss of strength has been pretty much negligible. Hot flashes, the only thing has been in the evening, like when I'm sleeping. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be very hot, and then 30 minutes later I'll be very cold. But during the day, sometimes I feel like my face is a little flushed, but it's not like I'm sweating. So overall, I would say, it hasn't, based on what I was thinking I might have. I realize 6 weeks in probably is just the very start of it. But the one disappointment I had, and I guess one question I might have, is this is all new to me. This has come up very quickly, and clearly I was thinking I was going to have the surgery. My PSA never got above 6, and get the prostate out and deal with the urinary stuff, and then I'd be done with it. And then when it came back that nope, okay, this is not going to be curative. It's going to be therapeutic treatment. I was hoping, I did a lot of reading, and I was reading about continuous ADT versus intermittent, and I was hoping, okay, maybe at my age I could be on intermittent therapy. And at least the medical oncologist I'm seeing right now said, normally for metastatic bone, that it's really a continuous, you stay on it until it no longer works, which is a little disappointing to hear.
Bill, did anybody talk to you about radiation to the whole pelvic region, since you did have lesions?
Yeah, so originally the thought was after the surgery, and when my PSA was at on the rise and certainly below the threshold what they were hoping for after the surgery, the thought was there would be the radiation treatment. Then when I got the test result that showed the bone metastasis, he said, no, we need you to be on systemic treatment. The localized radiation therapy really isn't the course of action for that. However, there's a study that MD Anderson is doing where you have low volume metastatic bone metastases where they could treat just one specific region. As I said, right now I do have just the one lesion, but he said you need to be on hormone therapy for at least 3 months before you could be considered for that. So, and at this point too, I was, I wasn't sure if this is just all that can be done. So I was thinking, should I reach out for a second opinion? My brother lives in Minneapolis, and of course he's talking up the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. So, but I don't know, maybe it's too early for me and I should just do what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Mayo Clinic's not the place for you, especially in Rochester, for a number of reasons. First of all, MD Anderson's as good as you get.
Okay.
Who are you seeing there?
Dr. Al-Halabi?
Yeah, I don't know him. We do know a whole number of docs there. It's very hard to switch. But if you wanted to switch, we could help. We could recommend a second opinion in Houston if you want to consider that. What is normally we navigate to either Dr. Korn or Aparicio is good too. Anna Aparicio or Dr. Korn would be the two choices at MD Anderson. But we can help you we can help you at Houston Methodist as well if you decide you want a second opinion, number one. Number two, as I said, Mayo is not the right place. Mayo Phoenix has better genito-urinary medical oncologists than does Mayo in Rochester.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So Mayo may be good, but for genito-urinary medical oncology, in our view, Minnesota, Rochester is not great. I don't mean to offend anybody on the call, but it's a long story. We don't need to get into it.
Okay.
There's quite a few things here. The first thing I want to tell you, Bill, is that we have a separate group that meets once a month for men under 60 with stage 3 and stage 4 disease. I
registered. I did register for that one as well. I haven't attended yet,
okay.
But yes.
Great. Okay, and we
plan to do so.
And we've got some younger guys on this call, and when we open it up in a minute, they'll probably reach out to you, and they're good to talk to, and they'll give you a perspective. Secondly, I am not I'm not a doc, but I've seen a lot, as have other guys here. It always bothers me when these docs wade in and say, you're never going to think about it, intermittent hormone therapy. And in particular, I think we need to connect you to one of our guys who isn't on today, who was very taken with that same statement. And as it turned out, he is now on intermittent hormone therapy. He was de novo metastatic, but not with bone mets. He had lymph, but he's on it now. And I think there are other guys who will tell you, don't take that to heart, because it's possible that you'll be on and off. But the likelihood is you will be on and off throughout the rest of your life. And that part we can't get away from. Although we're getting closer and closer to thinking that maybe we can get men like you a durable remission, which we didn't consider maybe 10 years ago. So I want to give you some hope on that score. The guys are going to talk to you. The under 60 guys and some of the rest of the guys will talk to you about the ED stuff.
Yep.
We have got a great solution for you for your night sweats, and I'll let one of the other guys tell you about that, but we can solve the night sweats for you so you can get a decent night's sleep. And I'll hand it over to the groups, and we need a few of you to wade in here. Oh, I know what else I was going to ask you. Did they do any genetic sequencing for you, either germline or somatic?
They have not, but the medical oncologist did say, based on my Gleason, that yes, they were going to do that for me, but it hasn't happened yet. I mean, literally, I've had one visit with the medical oncologist.
Yeah,
I'm seeing him again in 2 weeks.
They need to get that done for a number of reasons. First of all, you were diagnosed young. The fact that you were diagnosed with such low PSA is not uncommon with high-risk disease, and it's a bit of a red warning light. It's probably smart to get your some since it's pretty recent, some of your prostate tissue and there's debate about this, a sample from the iliac crest sequenced. And we also need to make sure that you don't carry any sort of germline inherited genetic. Do you have any cancer in the family, Bill?
Let's see, my maternal grandmother had bone cancer. And let's see, my paternal grandfather had pancreatic cancer.
Okay, so when they say bone cancer, they don't really mean bone cancer most of the time. They mean the cancer went to the bone.
Right.
And it would be very helpful to know where the primary was. Pancreatic cancer could signal that you do have an inherited mutation.
Right.
So, definitely a germline test is simple, and the somatic test. Yeah, do you have kids, Bill?
Yeah, I have one daughter and two sons.
Yeah.
My sons are 18 and 22.
So you probably need a germline test anyway, because if you get a result back on your somatic test that could be germline, you're going to have to do the germline, because you won't know from the somatic whether you inherited it or whether you made it yourself.
Yeah.
So
and you say germline? Is that GERM?
GERM, germline or inherited. It's the same. It's a test for an inherited mutation, and ask Al-Halabi for that and tell him ask him for that as well as the somatic.
Okay.
Okay? And if
Yep.
he says, well, you don't need both, you say, well, I will if something comes back, and I'd like to know for my kids.
Okay.
And then he shouldn't argue. All right, I've spoken enough. Let me, the other thing is that result that will come back from both the germline and the somatic may point out some specific treatments or treatment alternatives.
Right.
So anyway, let me open it up. How about Dennis? Dennis McGuire, you want to come in first?
Hey there. Yeah, so I was diagnosed also at a young age at 50. So I've been dealing with this for about 6 years. I would highly recommend you do the genetic testing as soon as you can. It helps put your mind at ease, your family's at ease. So yeah, no, I think you're definitely going down the right path, and welcome to the group. I think you're going to find this very helpful. As Rick mentioned, we have a subgroup for the U60, so hopefully you can join us.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis.
About the guys with the Embr wristbands, you want to talk to Bill about hot flashes?
Jeff's the one who's the most vocal about it. You there, Jeff? Show him your band.
I'm here. Here's two of them.
Yeah.
They make a major difference when I can catch the flash right away. There is no flash. My head may get a little warm and it's gone. It's can't beat them for me.
I thought the trial was over.
I'm not
No?
sure. They did have a hard time getting enough people, so they may still have a trial. Last I'd heard, it was still open.
If anybody has a link to that Embr website, could you put it in the chat box?
I'll find it and I'll put it in the chat. Bill, you know about the chat box? Have you figured that one out? Okay.
Yep, I was just looking at it now. Yes.
Okay, I'll
do it, Rick.
Okay, thanks.
So the bottom line, Bill, is that this Embr device helps every guy, I believe, in our group who has ever tried it, helps a lot with the hot flashes. So we recommend you look into that.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else want to talk about anything else with Bill before we move on?
Yes, very quickly, I would.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So
Bill?
after Jimmy, I will as well.
Okay, yeah, I'm very brief. Bill, welcome. You've been on the Elegard, as I take it, for only 3 months, you say?
I've been on the Elegard for 6 weeks.
Oh, 6 weeks, that's nothing. Okay, so as far as the side effect profile, it's very doubtful you're going to feel anything yet. But I'm not trying to scare you, it's on the way, you know?
Yes.
And what's on the way specifically is you're going to have trouble keeping your strength up. You have trouble not feeling tired sometimes. You're going to have, the hot flashes will come. But the exercise that you mentioned is your best defense against all of it. And I didn't get the watch. I was pre-watch, and I certainly would have taken one if I could. But what I did take was I worked out harder when I was on that stuff than I did going in, and I'm pretty hard worker. And I still lost. I just didn't lose much. I always said to myself, what would it have been like if I hadn't pushed so hard? And I felt good most of the time. So just don't let it overtake you. Stay with it. Don't give in to the naps, and don't give in. Also, watch your food, because metabolism slows and you get fat really easily. And the scale doesn't tell you anything, because you gain fat and lose muscle simultaneously. The scale might not change. So just keep an eye on it. You're doing great. Whatever you're doing with your workouts, I would go ahead and just ramp it up if at all possible, so you can really stay on top of it. You'll be feeling fine.
Okay. And generally, when you start to feel, you know, the loss of the muscle strength and the fatigue, are we talking 6 months down the road?
You know, it's different for everybody. I felt fine for 6 months. It hit me pretty good at about 9 months, 6 to 9 months. That was the hardest for me. But that was also when I was going through the radiation, and I never assigned it to the radiation. But Rick will tell you, and a lot of guys will tell you that the longer you're on it, for some guys it gets worse, and some guys it kind of tails off. There's a lot of factors. Your age, you know, you're young. You may notice more difference, but you also have more to fight it back with.
Yeah.
So don't even worry about it. Just
Okay.
stay on top of it, and you should be at a great advantage for your fitness habits.
Thanks, Jimmy.
You're welcome.
Hey everyone, this is Rick Stanton. I have meant to attend more regularly, but my wife just got breast cancer, so I, haven't been able to attend as much as I wanted. Anyway, I put down in a note to everyone that I recommend an RNA Seq in addition to, as Rick mentioned, germline and somatic. So germline and somatic can reveal the mutations that possibly could be targeted with a targeted therapy. And immunotherapy is coming on right now. Right now, PD-L1 is the big player, but meaning an immunotherapy that can save lives. Not so much for prostate cancer. So there's other immunotherapies, and I had Tempus run an RNA Seq. That means it quantifies the gene expression and in particular your immune expression in the tumor microenvironment from your biopsy. So what does this mean? So it means it can point to different immunotherapy interventions that I'm sure MD Anderson knows of, and I agree completely with Rick, probably the best in the world. But I'm at UCLA, my medical oncologist at UCLA, and he doesn't, I don't want to say anything, but people, they're not even looking at it. So there's a new wave coming, a new wave of hope, and we want to just stay alive long enough for this wave to hit so that it even like our medical oncologists look at it and like go, oh, wow, it turns out that there's a target that's very common in metastatic prostate cancer. This is from Dr. Peter Nelson up at Fred Hutch, and that this target is CD276 or B7H3. It's a target similar to PD-L1, and I'm going to stop talking now. I got on my little soapbox here, but I feel like there's a lot of hope for all of us, and we want to just stay alive long enough for this new wave to come. And I think it's pretty well tolerated, these immunotherapies in comparison. So I recommend, they can do it at the same time. If you get a Tempus, I've been analyzing some Tempus somatic and RNA Seq data sets. I used to work at Amgen. I helped discover Xgeva. So anyway, I recommend it.
Okay.
So, Rick, what specific therapies are identified if you come up with the right information from the RNA Seq? I mean, what is there out there that's being used in other cancers that might be appropriate for us today?
What I'm looking at when I analyze RNA Seq data, which I'm analyzing mine and a number of other prostate cancer patients, is overexpression of checkpoints, much like PD-L1. Rick, I know you know about PD-L1 and the criteria that is used to determine whether or not you are would be a good fit for PD-L1. And that is all based on expression. If you have high expression of a signal that's telling your T cell to die, we want to interfere. We want to interfere with
it. But I'm talking specifics. I mean, it's great to know this stuff, It's like what we did. It's like what we did with Bryce. You learn all this stuff, but it doesn't produce a treatment. So what I'm saying is RNA Seq sounds great, but are there treatments out there being used for other cancers that we can say, okay, we've got this CDC, whatever Pete North is talking about, and I know of Pete North. He's a guy I've been following for a long time. Does this open up a new treatment for our guys? Because otherwise, we can send them to do this, but it's not going to point out another treatment for them.
Right. It could. So what I would recommend and what I'm doing is go down the standard of care for as long as you can, because the clinical trials are, they don't have enough data. But after that, in fact, I'm moving on, to my consideration of chemo and clinical trials. I will be looking at my gene expression and considering immunotherapies to match. So these are, interfering with blockades and stimulating the co-stims on the T cell. And there are probably 1,000 clinical trials against probably 25 to 30 targets. So if I look at I've looked at my gene expression. I'm a candidate for B7H3, which is in phase 2. So I'm going to be considering it next time my PSA goes up, which I'm measured in 3 weeks. So did that answer your question, Rick?
Well, kind of, because then you're going to have to, is that trial open to prostate cancer or solid tumors or not? Or are you going to have to fight to get that off label?
I haven't surveyed that. Macrogenetics is the main contender I'm looking at, but also Arcus Biosciences. I worked with the guys there while I was at Amgen. They're working on a CD73 and TIGIT that is for advanced prostate cancer, metastatic prostate cancer. I think it's a fantastic hope, but that's all it is right now. It's hope.
This is the reason I'm taking time is because the guys hear this and then they're saying, well, what was that Rick Stanton was talking about? And what about, do we need to get RNA Seq? And my concern, my own personal concern is, yes, this is the wave of the future and it's great science, but it's not yet ready for prime time. And for somebody like you who understands it and can follow for yourself, but I don't know that, and I really like to ask Len on this. And I know, Len, we're taking time from people that need, but this is really important stuff. And my feeling is that it's not quite ready for prime time and that you can spend a lot of time chasing your tail and then you don't get anywhere.
I agree with you, Rick. This sounds like early clinical trial research, which may be something to consider for guys who have exhausted everything else, but certainly not for most of us on this call who still have approved therapies available. But certainly something for us to keep monitoring. So thank you for that, Rick.
Yeah, and Rick, we keep coming back because it's great that we hear about this stuff. We love it. I'm concerned about the applicability on a general level right now,
Yeah, I agree. So all points well taken. Little bit cutting edge out there. I wouldn't recommend it for myself or anyone on this call until the standard of care is exhausted. At that point, I would for myself. But I agree with everything you guys said. Just threw it out there, and I appreciate being here.
We appreciate having you.
All right. So before we leave, Bill, are you okay, Bill, for now? Can we move on
Yep.
to the other guys and you'll be back next week?
Absolutely. Thanks for the
Okay,
information.
very good. So I'd like to go to Jake. Has he requested some time?
Hi, thank you, Len. Well, first of all, just a quick status update. My PSA on oral chemotherapy on the cyclophosphamide, it went up again. It's now up at 801. But I see that as good news because last month it went up 220 points, give or take a point or two. This time it went up only 17 points. So, but I was talking to Len earlier. She has ruled out cabazitaxel because of the side effects that I had with docetaxel. She's concerned it'll be even worse with the cabazitaxel. And I mentioned radium-223, and she mentioned her concern is myelosuppression. So my question is, what exactly on the blood results tells you that you have myelosuppression? I mean, I have low RBC, I have low hemoglobin, low hematocrit, and low calcium.
Well, Jake, the most
and
important,
high RDW. Do any of them indicate myelosuppression?
the most important consideration for myelosuppression would be your platelet count, because that can cause bleeding. And there's usually a cutoff of something like 80, sometimes even as high as 100, where a lot of therapies will be denied to you because of the risk of internal bleeding from a low platelet count. So what is your platelet count?
Man, they make these things so small for old guys that need glasses. They
Put
can't
those
read with
glasses down on your nose.
They can't read with them or without them. My platelets were 187.
Wow, that's terrific.
That's low. It's low end because they say the range is 150 to 450. But yeah, that's well within the range.
Yeah. So that's
so
the
all
most
those
important.
other things, the RBC and the calcium, those are not indicative of.
Well, after the platelets, the next most important consideration is your white blood cell count. So what is that?
That was 6.4.
And that's good too.
Okay.
So what's your hemoglobin?
11.2.
Okay.
Not bad.
It's tagged as low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know,
Not
that
that
comes
low.
with the territory of being on ADT for a long time. Most of us have a slightly anemic hemoglobin. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't consider you to be terribly immunosuppressed.
Okay.
For
some reason, she doesn't want to give it to me, or she can't give it, but you know, for some reason she's
Well,
hesitant about it.
You mean the cabazitaxel?
No, the cabazitaxel, she says, is definitely out.
Yeah.
She wants to go back to the mitoxantrone, the old drug that you worked on.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a little bit easier on the neutropenia on the immunosuppression side.
Okay.
Mitoxantrone.
My problem is that she doesn't understand cabazitaxel, Jake. Cabazitaxel was developed with a lower side effect profile to docetaxel, specifically for people that have problem with docetaxel the first time around. Now, you did pretty well with that docetaxel, even though you were getting it in reduced dose.
Right.
You had the equivalent of how many doses? Full doses.
6, I guess. I had 23 total, I believe.
Okay, so 23 total is over 7 full doses because you were getting them in thirds.
Right, every week. Right.
Right. So you almost had 8 full doses. Well, most people are going to have a problem after 8 full doses. If she hasn't figured that one out, it's a problem.
I think her problem with giving Jake cabazitaxel is that he already has neuropathic pain. peripheral neuropathy, and giving him cabazitaxel is going to make it worse.
Well,
And
maybe not, because it was designed not to exacerbate. And you know,
I recall Dom was put on cabazitaxel after docetaxel, and he had such bad neuropathy that Dan George refused to give him anymore, even though Dom was willing.
Right. Yeah, I am aware, Rick, that the cabazitaxel is supposed to have a lower side effect profile, but it is a taxane, and it's just a different variant of docetaxel, and that's why she doesn't want to give it, because of the peripheral neuropathy. I was having shortness of breath on this docetaxel. Of course, smoking doesn't help with that, but it's gotten better since I've been off the docetaxel. So she's pretty much ruled it out, and I kind of agree with her. You know, the radium-223 is still an option, I think. I just need to convince her, and thank you for your input on that, guys. I was concerned about all these low readings that I was having, but you don't seem to think they're significant.
I tell you, I wish my platelets were as high as yours, and I've never even taken chemo, so
okay, that's
not bad at all. And your white count is good. Your hemoglobin is better than Peter Kafka's. You know, you got a lot of. That's not bad considering all the treatments you've undergone. You've got some pretty
even though they're considered low, it's still within a range, within a decent range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I misheard that about smoking, right?
Let's pretend you misheard. Yes. We're not going to go there, John.
What? I thought so. Okay.
That's what's keeping his counts up.
Right.
Who knows? Could be.
Okay. Well, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Jake. Let's go to Peter Monaco next.
Hello. Yeah. I'm doing okay. I'm on Zytiga and Lupron, and my PSA has been undetectable the last couple of months. My oncologist a couple of weeks ago did have me do a genomic test. It was done via a blood draw, and it came back with a positive on something called a CHEK2 mutation, which he said was not a really big deal, but would be open to any opinions about what the significance of that. And to Rick's question earlier today, I don't know if it was genomic or what is the other one, somatic or something?
Somatic, yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to ask. I don't know which one. I think he said it was a genomic test. So, you know, just more news about my disease and what the long-term progression might be, I guess. I don't know what the significance of it is, really.
Who did the test? Do you know who did the test?
You know, I don't know yet. It was Mount Sinai. They sent it somewhere, so I did follow up and sent Dr. Patel a message through the portal after you and I communicated this afternoon. Okay. So I haven't heard from him yet.
Yeah. So did Dr. Patel say that it was actionable, Peter?
He said it. He said it might be, and he said, you know, it's something that they could target if the need comes, if the need arises. He mentioned the PARP inhibitors or something like that.
Yeah.
As a potential treatment down the road, if necessary.
PARP inhibitors are approved for that indication, but practically the results are pretty poor.
Okay.
Response rate is poor for that particular.
For CHEK2.
For CHEK2, yeah.
Yeah. So, Peter, what happened was that when olaparib, it's only recommended for olaparib and not for rucaparib, which are the two that have been approved for prostate cancer. And when olaparib went for approval, they threw in a whole basket of mutations that were in what's called the BRCA pathway, which means they were mutations that in some way, shape, or form could affect the BRCA mutation. And when the FDA approved it, they approved it as submitted, so they approved olaparib for all these different mutations like PALB and ATM and CHEK2 and a whole bunch more. But when they started looking at the results, they found that really the only one that it might have an influence on other than BRCA2 was BRCA1 and ATM, and really not even ATM, but possibly. And the rest of them, even though it's approved, it doesn't seem to make a difference. And so what happened was that these companies like Foundation Medicine started indicating that BRCA2, that PARP was an actionable drug. And Len and I got together with Foundation Medicine and we said, you can't be saying this, because even though it was approved, the evidence is that it doesn't make a difference. And we had some success because they put some weasel language in as a result of that. So, you know, Patel should be a little more straight with you, because I'm sure he knows this, and say, yeah, technically it is approved and it is an actionable mutation, but in practice, as Len says, it doesn't have any impact. Because you don't want to be taking a PARP inhibitor if you don't have to be. It's another one of these things that can have significant side results with myelosuppression.
Right, right.
Now, that all said, does this make your disease more lethal, more advanced than it already is? Probably not. We don't have any evidence of that.
So
at least I don't think so. I defer to Rick Stanton or to Len Sierra if they're aware of anything that says CHEK2 makes your disease worse.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know an awful lot about mutations, and are they the driver mutations driving your cancer, or are they just not typical, and are they harmless? There's a lot we don't know yet about mutations. There are a few that we are sure of, like BRCA2, but not many.
Right, right.
All right. Well, your PSA is still undetectable, you said, Peter, right?
Yeah, that's been going pretty good.
All right. So,
you know, and I'm not finding the side effects all that difficult. I mean, there's some fatigue, but I don't get the hot flashes really to any great extent. So it's about 4 months now that I'm on Zytiga with Lupron and prednisone, of course. And you know, there's some fatigue there, I'd say, but you can battle it with movement and exercise or playing golf or whatever seems to do the trick. I do have another health setback, though. I have to get my left hip done now. So I had my right hip redone last August, Rick, you may recall.
Yeah.
It was a redo. I had done it originally in 2007, and it failed for various reasons. And I had that redone last August of 20. And at the time, my surgeon looked at my whole pelvis, looking at both hips when we were admiring his work after, the post-op visit. And I asked him, so how's my other hip look? And he gave me like, you still got some cartilage there, but, I can't say, but probably not all that long. So I started having some minor discomfort with it. And you know what? I knew what that pain was immediately. I been there, done that. I said, yeah. It might sound crazy, but I don't want to wait. So I rushed it through. I went to my doctor. The surgeon is a great guy. I explained to him my current status with my prostate cancer. And I says, I don't have much time to waste. Even if I live
So
any appreciable amount of years, I don't want to be living hobbling around, A, or B, should my disease progress anytime soon and I do need chemo, well, then surgery's off the table if you've got to go on chemo. So he was like totally sympathetic. And I'm on the schedule for hip replacement for November 29th.
Okay,
So,
anterior, Peter?
and this one will be anterior because this is new. When he had to do the revision last year,
Let me just,
he had to go in the same way.
And we got to move on, but you'll fly through anterior. 3 weeks after it's done, you won't even know about it. You'll be back on that golf course.
Boy, I hope you're right, Rick. Thanks for that one.
I know, and don't get bent out of shape about the check too. All right.
Thanks. Let's move on. Thanks.
He just made his day, Rick, when you told him he could go back to the golf course.
Well, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Peter, I verify that. Hip replacement's easy, especially nowadays.
Yeah. So I hear. So I mean, I'll work hard at the rehab. That much I can tell you.
Right, Peter. We're going to move on to Dennis. Dennis McGuire.
Hey, Len. Hey, everyone. So just quickly, I got approved for Provenge, and I went in for my first treatment today and surprisingly had some complications. I want to just get some feedback from folks who've had it, if anyone on the call has gone through Provenge, if they had any issues with the leukapheresis, so the transfer of blood. So like 1 hour into my procedure, the machine started going off, beeping, and apparently what happened was the vein collapsed. So the blood stopped going into the machine, the centrifuge, and so they tried to readjust the needle with no success. And so we tried another vein, and about 20 minutes later, same thing happened. The vein collapsed. So they had a couple technicians come over and really couldn't come up with a solution. So we only had like 10% of the procedure completed, so we decided to terminate it. And just a little more information, this is done at the Red Cross, which surprised me a little bit. And I was a little hesitant at first, going to a Red Cross for a cancer treatment, but apparently that's the way the procedure works with Provenge. So anyone on the call that's had any experience with Provenge?
I don't have experience with Provenge or with knowledge of the issue that happened to you, but I just want to say Red Cross is the appropriate place to go because those are the experts in doing transfusions, plasmapheresis, leukapheresis. They're all about that aspect of the procedure. It doesn't matter to them what they're infusing, what they're extracting.
Right.
In Manhattan, it's also the Red Cross that handles Provenge. So,
yeah, I can second that, Dennis, because I had it and I went to the Red Cross here in Phoenix, and they're the ones that have the machine to separate the blood. So
yeah,
I didn't have the veins collapse, but still know why yours would. What was the solution? Did they give you one?
Well, that's the big unknown. What the solution is it wait a week and try it again, or is there any other way? I know with chemotherapy they use the port, but I don't know if that's an option for this treatment.
Yeah, that was my suggestion. Ask about a port.
Yeah.
I've known one guy who has had it done with Provenge, and they put a central line in, and that's the easy way to go in the long run.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, this is Carl, and when I had Provenge about 2.5 years ago, they wanted to make sure I was well hydrated, and maybe that was the result of, were you well hydrated when you started the process?
I was. They sent me that notice and I was well prepared. I started drinking a lot of fluids a few days in advance.
Okay.
Okay, well, it sounds like good advice from Joel there, Dennis, to use a central line next time you try it. Talk to them about it before you go.
Yeah, I will pursue that both with Dendreon, the Provenge maker, as well as my oncologist.
So what's up with the rest, Dennis? I'm curious to hear where you're at. When's your next labs?
Yeah. Well, the good development, Rick, have you mentioned what's going on to the group? Do you want to give a little introduction? Or you want me to just?
Whichever you prefer. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, as some of you know, I did a lutetium trial earlier this spring at the University of Wisconsin, run by Novartis, and I had 3 treatments of lutetium, and I had good results while I was on the treatment, but a few months after the final treatment, my PSA started going up and my lymph nodes started increasing. So I started pursuing expanded access, or essentially trying to get more lutetium through Novartis. And at first was really hitting a lot of dead ends. And then I found out that the University of Chicago was starting an expanded access program with Novartis. So I got a referral there and have a call with the Chicago guys later this week to see what the possibilities are of getting more lutetium through that expanded access trial. A program, I should say. It's not technically a trial.
So just to complete that, Chicago definitely has an active lutetium-177 PSMA 617 access trial in place, and they are seeding people 1 a day. They've got a little bit of issue over getting the material, but the bigger problem is the capacity to seat people. I know this, and I know that he wouldn't mind me sharing it. I know this because Jerry Deans found out last Thursday that he has a brain metastasis of about 2 to 3 centimeters, and it's been impinging on his cognitive discernment, and so he got a CT scan, and it looked like there was something there. And then last Thursday he went to Duke. They did a PSMA scan and they confirmed it. So that sort of speeds everything up. And in that context, I spoke to Dennis. I was actually going to call David Muslin too, but to get to Schmulowitz. But then we realized that Jim Schrate, who most of you on this call don't know, but he's the former vice chair of us too, and he's now on the board of Zero, has worked with Schmulowitz for several years on the Northwestern SPORE, the research program. And so we got hold of Shmulewicz, and there's been loads of emails flying around, and we're trying to lean very hard on University of Chicago and Dr. Shmulewicz to get Jerry in. Jerry is starting spot radiation on his brain this week. He's already on dexamethasone. I talked to him today, and most of you have heard him know he's very slow speaking. He was more hyped up than Jake, and I've had about 6 emails from him today. So that Dex is really, he's in a Dex fury right now.
It's
but
good stuff,
Charles Drake is calling Shmulewicz, and Dan George is calling Shmulewicz, and Shmulewicz has said we can't get him in for 2 months, and Drake has already written that he needs to get this within 3 to 4 weeks, which he does. I do know a little bit about it. My advice to Dennis McGuire was to go through the Provenge, and by the time you're done with and start get into line along with everybody, with the rest of the folks, and then by the time you're done with the Provenge, maybe you're ready for the lutetium, but it isn't quite as urgent. And by the way, Al Latimer, we thought of calling you to get him into UCLA as well, if we could have pulled some strings there. But I guess because we got to Shmulewicz so quickly, we're now leaning on Shmulewicz, because I don't know how long the wait list is, Al, at UCLA. If we got him to Calais next week, how long it would be before he could get a seat. So it's all been pretty hectic, and we love Jerry dearly, and so we really want to get that lutetium into him as quickly as we can, and that's been taking up some time this week.
Well, Dennis, I'll keep my fingers crossed to get bumped up on the list. I did recently put in a request from, actually Rick prompted it, because I'd called a couple weeks to UCLA and never got a good response, but Paul yesterday sent in a request, so we'll see where I sit at UCLA, and I'll let you know.
This is Al Latimer. I'm currently in that program at UCLA, and they're telling me they're only doing it on Thursdays and Fridays, and 2 people in the morning and 2 people in the afternoons. Although the 3 times I've been there so far, I've been the only one. So I'm not really sure how much they've gotten it ramped up, but it's pretty limited. And I know there's a backlog, but how much, I have no idea.
I think when you have brain mets, it's kind of a big sign, so you get people's attention. And so even if we can pull strings to get product, which we may have to do from AAA, we managed to get product for Dennis McGuire from AAA. We've still got to get him a seat, and brain mets are going to probably get you further up the line than anything else. And God forbid you have brain mets. You don't want brain mets. So, but Ken, they're about 2 months out at Chicago. So if you want to, if you're ready to start in 2 months, then get in line with Shmulewicz. That I can tell you for sure.
Rick, I'd like to move on. We have so many guys we need to get to.
Can we welcome Herb?
Yes, welcome Herb. He's back from his fishing trip.
Well, no, I am there.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
Did you catch anything?
Tomorrow is the first day fishing.
Okay.
But I got a cap. All right, let me not interrupt. I'm just keep going.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to Jerry Pelfrey.
Oh, okay. I just want to give you a report on my last treatment up in Tucson. I'm doing quite fine. The only problem, and you guys have mentioned it already, is that I'm anemic. My hemoglobin and hemocrat is low. It's not real low, Len, like you were talking about, but it still is low. And that's the only thing that was wrong or bothers me in my lab. My labs came out fine. I'm still undetectable. But does anyone know a good way to try and eliminate the anemia? You know, is there any?
Well, it depends.
Terry, what therapy are you undergoing right now?
Me? It's Eligard, Zytiga, and prednisone.
Yeah, there's really nothing you can do. Unless it gets really low, then they might consider giving you either a transfusion or I only know the generic name. I don't know. I forgot the trade name.
Epoetin.
Epoetin. Thank you. You know, which stimulates red blood cell production. It's a hormone, but you know, Peter Kafka actually got a few shots of that, and that seemed to help him a bit. How low is your hemoglobin?
It's only about 0.6 below.
No, your hemoglobin should be something like 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, it should be. It's like 8.6.
Oh, 8.6. Yeah, okay. So you're getting down there. You see, Jake,
Yeah,
that's a low hemoglobin, not what you have, Jake.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so they could transfuse red blood cells, or they could give you epoetin, the hormone to stimulate red blood cell production. You can talk to your doctor.
What's the trade name for that?
Concerned about it.
Yeah.
Procrit.
Procrit, right. Thanks, Dr. John. Look,
That's lower than we.
Yes. So a couple of things.
What was the name of that? What was the name?
Hold on, and we'll give it you all. Couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, in the years that I've been doing this, I've seen a lot of hemoglobin issues. Right? They should start looking at you once you get under 10. They probably won't give it to you under 10 or more, but under 10 they take it seriously. Under 9 they take it more seriously, and between 8 and 9 they should certainly be doing something. Now, one of the best things that you can do is get a pint of blood, maybe even 2 pints, because you will really feel much better. I know guys that got pints for a long time. And if the doctor, who is the doctor that's not concerned about it? Is it the urologist?
No, both oncologists, both Raphael in Tucson and Singh in Mayo. At the level I'm at. I mean, that.
Well, I would, if it were me, I'd be saying I want either Procrit or I want a pint, at least a pint, because I'm not feeling good. Where are you right now? Are you back in Mexico or are you still up here?
No, I'm in Mexico.
Okay.
Let me give you I was wrong. My hemocratin is 37.5, so it's a little below 40. And my hemoglobin is 11.7.
Okay, well,
you're fine.
Okay. 11.7 is fine, right? That's a whole different story.
Well, that's 13 is low.
No,
yeah, but that's for normal people, not people on ADT for years like us.
Okay, so as long as it stays at that or it goes higher, I'm all right?
Yes, you're fine. So what was the 8.6? What was that?
Well, that was me just off the top of my head. And I opened up my lab report because I knew it was low. But
Yes.
sorry.
So you don't need any treatment at all for that. That's very mild anemia. It's not going to affect anything.
Okay, I'm done because I know you got a lot of people.
Good.
We're all 11 in here.
Thank you. How about Alan Moskowitz?
Okay, I'll try to be brief. I did get last week my Polarified PSMA scan at Mount Sinai. And I got a report over the weekend. I have not talked to any of my MOs yet on it, although my MO at Sloan Kettering requested a copy of the disc. Presumably he wants to have it read there, which is a good idea because I think the folks there may have more experience with PSMA. Basically, no local prostate cancer was found, but I do have some lung nodules that are somewhat avid. And one of them, the largest one, is 1 centimeter, and that one grew from 1/2 centimeter back 18 months ago. So it's a bit puzzling. The radiologist says it's somewhat suspicious for prostate cancer, more so than an infection or something like that. There was an old lesion on a collarbone that has stayed the same, that picked up a little bit of the radioactive tracer. There was an old sclerotic lesion on the iliac crest, which was very, very mild. But it was the lung ones that were perhaps most concerning. And so he recommends that I get probably get a CT scan dedicated just to the chest and lung area, obviously, and then perhaps, if possible, have a biopsy done of one or more of these nodules. Okay, so that's what the radiologist says. I don't know yet, of course, what my doctor would say. So my question to you is, because I want to be prepared whenever I do talk to him, is this. My mindset has been now that even before this, I was sort of ready to pull the trigger and do the ADT rather than continue, even though it's a doubling time of, 16 months, 15 months. I thought I was ready to sort of pull the trigger. But if a biopsy is possible, would I do that? I mean, it seems like if it was prostate cancer, I could get genomic testing on it maybe, or confirm or deny prostate cancer. Plus, I'd have a baseline image, if nothing else. On the other hand, if I do nothing, I'd still have the same treatment, I think, going on, Lupron, for example, and I can avoid all that. So I wanted to get your thoughts. Is it worth doing the biopsy if it's possible? I mean, going down the trachea into the lungs is one approach, but sometimes, depending where the lesion is, if it's accessible, you have to go in externally. I'm not sure I want my lung poked open for something that, basically may not impact my treatment decision. Any thoughts?
Well, for me, I would just take the hormone therapy and see if your lung nodules shrink. If they do, that's the end of the story. You know what's going on. If taking a biopsy, you risk a collapse of your lung. I think that's a greater risk than just taking the ADT.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point.
Yeah, we've seen other people do that, but I'm a little confused here. Didn't you say that you went in for a PSMA scan last week?
Yes.
And what was the type of PSMA scan? Was it a Polarify scan, or was it a?
Yes.
It was a Polarify scan.
Yes.
And who read that scan?
Yeah, I mean, it was just some radiologist there at Mount Sinai, and I, this is where I don't know if I have enough faith in that in that person. I don't know enough about his experience. I mean, I'm going to say, unless they've done a lot of testing, they've run a bunch of them, they've said, since approval. A lot of people have done self-pay for $5,900.
Yeah.
I'm one of the first probably that will presumably get Medicare coverage, according to Mount Sinai.
Let me ask Len a question, because I'm a little unclear. You said that PSMA scan showed something on your iliac crest and something on your collarbone and something here. So is that because they do a regular CT scan alongside the PSMA?
Yes, it's a PET CT scan.
Yeah, they do that for anatomic localization, Rick. The PSMA scan shows you where the lesions light up, but it's kind of hard to tell exactly where they are anatomically. So they do the CT scan for that purpose.
Okay, so they overlay. So I got it. So they overlay it. So
yes, right.
The nodule, what showed up on the PSMA scan only?
I can't be sure of that. He only comments with respect to the PET portion of it. He doesn't say whether it shows up alone. So I don't know. This will be the advantage of having it read elsewhere.
Right. So what you've got to find out is not what showed up on the CT part of the scan, but what showed up on the PSMA part of the scan.
Well, you have it reversed. The PSMA is what shows these glowing avid nodules. He doesn't comment on whether they also show up on the CT scan itself.
Okay, where did the iliac crest show up?
Let's see, the iliac crest, he just says there's a sclerotic lesion in the right iliac crest measuring 1.6 centimeters without significant radio tracer uptake. So I'm assuming that's probably on both, or it has a very slight uptake, and that's how he identifies it. It's not clear, I can't tell. And I can go back to the guy and ask him. It's very simple. I've already asked him a couple things, so I could find that out if it's helpful.
That one would be on the CT
Alan, is there
scan.
an SUV value for that iliac crest?
Yes, there is. It's a let's see if he does here. No, there isn't one for that. I'm sorry. But some of these SUV values are 1.8 or 1, a little low. The highest one is that one node in the lung, which is an 8.
Yeah.
But he did compare to my gallium scan, which I had done last March. And he looked at that, but he says it's not directly comparable because it's obviously a different radio tracer, right? So, okay, so I have a sense. I don't want to take too much time. So, okay, it's a good, Len, your thinking is, along sort of my approach, unless there's something special. I mean, getting genomic testing out of it and getting if I could do that and getting it getting it biopsied, it's a fair amount of risk for perhaps very little gain.
I think so.
Yeah.
You know what you could do, Alan? Send it over to Zalewski at MSK and have him read it, or someone on his team.
Yeah, so it's going to my doctor at Sloan as the first stop. Now I've already said send it to someone who's got a lot of experience. I mean, they did a bunch of clinical trials with the gallium one. So hopefully there's someone there who knows something. But I know, Zalewski, I know him. I saw him once. So, okay, that's a thought as well. If I can specify him or at least mention his name, it wouldn't hurt. Very good.
Okay. I have some important information that I just got today. Some of it was when I had to run off for that other call. I've been talking with Mary Ann Heine from who's the president and CEO of Lantheus that makes Pylarify.
Right.
For various reasons. But one of the things I learned is that they've just had an AI package approved by the FDA to read these Pylarify scans, because they're recognizing that many radiation oncologists and other doctors don't have the experience. So what they're trying to do is to introduce a software package with artificial intelligence that will standardize the reading of these Pylarify scans, which should be a comfort to the people that are getting these Pylarify scans where they cannot get them to an experienced eye.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. They must have trouble. I know on their website they do have some self tutorials for, I'll call it radiologists, to help learn how to read it. I mean, I don't know that I want to undertake it myself, but you know, I recognize it must be an area that makes it very difficult to read. I guess that's the downside of being a guinea pig on these things.
So they think that this will be available nationwide before the end of the year. They're hoping to introduce it widely, is what she told me, within the next couple of months.
Okay, that's good. One last question. Is it true that prostate cancer in the lungs is relatively uncommon?
I've read that it's about 25% of metastatic patients have lung lesions, so it's not that uncommon.
Okay, all right. It's a higher number than I read. I guess I'm
There's
not
a number of guys just in our group alone who have reported that.
Jerry Deans had lung lesions for 10 years. They would go, they would come back, they would go, they would come back. But it wasn't until about, I think 2016 or 17 even, maybe 18, that it moved anywhere beyond his lungs.
Did he have treatment during all that time?
Yeah, all kinds of treatment.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, Alan, we're going to move on to Joel Blanchett.
Yes, very timely, because I can tag right into what he was saying, what Ellen was saying. Bring you up to date. I took a PSMA PET scan at Walter Reed, Fort Belvoir location, and it showed I had prostate cancer in my right neck. I have some pain in my right neck also. Took an MRI last Monday at Johns Hopkins. They say I have no prostate cancer in my neck. So here we go. They can't read. And Denmead said when I saw him, we don't know what to do with this PSMA PET scan. We've never seen it before. So even though they invented it there at Johns Hopkins. So my problem is exactly that. I'm going to put in the chat right now what the bottom line of my MRI said. And so I'm in a quandary as to what to do next, because the next problem I have is Dr. Denmead has quit communicating with me. I've sent him 3 or 4 emails, some on my chart, some directly to his email, which he prefers, I think. And he not responded me back in a week. When I had Antonarakis, he responded back religiously in 1 or 2 days. So I'm not pleased with Denmead right now, because he's not even answering my questions. I'm trying to help him decipher through this. But so I don't know if he's doing nothing because he says, oh, you don't have prostate cancer, or I don't know if he's got a team of doctors at Johns Hopkins working on the issue. So because he's not communicating with me. So I need some help as far as, you know, how do I get a rise out of Denmead so he answers my emails? And number 2, what do you guys make of all this? I tend to want to believe my PSMA PET scan. At the same time, MRI says it's non-existent. So, but I do have a PSA that's gone up from since May from 0.9 to 1.5 to 2 to 2.1 to back down to 2. So, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know how I can have missing in action prostate cancer. But I think it might tie back to what Alan was saying about Nobody knows how to read the PSMA PET scan.
When they,
Hey, Joe,
when they looked at it, one of the things that Provenge pointed out to me is that your salivary glands light up. And that could be a false reading.
And Dr. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Well, that's about as much as I know, is that there's 2 or 3 spots in the body that will light up, but they know to exclude them. And like I said, the salivary glands, if you said it's on the right side of your neck, that's a good possibility that that's what they're looking at.
No, but Dr. Deadney did say last week, 2 weeks ago when I saw him, that if you had a tumor, a cancerous tumor around a nerve, that would produce PSMA also.
So I have an idea. General. Is this, do you have this in a digital format? Do you have the scan in a digital format?
Yes, I was given I asked for a CD. I do have it in CD. Yes, I do have it in digital format.
Okay. Joe, do you think we could get Provenge to read it for Joel?
I can give him the, as soon as I look it up, I can give him the email address, and he's responsive to people. He answers the calls, and he does, so he could do it or tell you where to send it.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is, could you write a note to Provenge, explain who Joel is, and ask him if he would be willing to do it rather than it coming in cold?
Yeah, well then, Joel, just send me a short note that I can then forward to him, so that way I describe it properly.
Right, I gotcha.
But like I said, he's good. A couple of the guys that I've already routed over there, they've talked about the fact that he gets on the phone and talks to you about it.
So after he's seen it, Joel, maybe then you can speak to him. But if Joe can get something into his hands, he can look at it. And we know that Dr. Provenge is very experienced in reading these DCF-PYL scans.
Okay, good. And where is he located again?
He is UCLA and also the VA in Los Angeles. He ran the trial out there.
Okay, got it.
Joel, he's the guy that's running the VA trial in West LA.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Okay, so he's a really good guy to have read these scans.
All right, so in other words, you want the PSMA to be reread and not the MRI. Is that what you're saying?
He's the PSMA PET guy. I don't know about his MRI experience.
Right.
I think if you're going to send both.
Send over the information. Just what her was saying. Send over the information and then let him sort through it, and he'll either say, I can answer this, or I can route it to someone else.
Okay, very good. We'll do. I'll get you.
Joe, this is one time when I do think we should, if you don't mind us doing so, Joel, I do think we should pull rank, Joe.
Yeah, there was a lot of noise when you just spoke. Go ahead, Rick. Say it again.
I said if as long as we have Joel's blessing, I think we should pull rank.
We'll help him. We'll get it figured out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Like I said, I had one guy who wrote to me just the other day who wanted to get into the trial. He contacted out at to Provenge and discovered that the trial has finished. But he said he got on the phone with him, talked to him, and suggested what he could do and where he could go to come in and bring his. Actually, I think he offered to do it for him anyway. Now that I remember. Yep. So Provenge's good. He's a good guy.
Guys, we are already over time and we've still got 6 more guys to go through. So let's get moving, okay? Let's go to Gary, and guys, please be very focused on what the issue is and what you want from us, okay? No tangents, please. Go ahead, Go ahead, Gary.
Len, I just wanted your opinion and Rick's and Herb, now that he's on there. Last week, Jimmy Greenfield talked about the trial he was in at Hopkins that involved some infusions of docetaxel. And I've been reading other articles about this Peace 1 trial where they talk about adding docetaxel to the regimen of abiraterone plus prednisone plus ADT. So is this now a thing that is actually recommended for those on ADT plus abiraterone?
It's abiraterone.
Abiraterone.
The answer is no. Right now, it's a trial, and it would have been, to do it, Gary, you have to start at the beginning. You can't interrupt it and do it, like add something to air halfway down the road. So the answer is no.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with her.
Yeah. So the standard of care should be that when you're first diagnosed with metastatic disease, that if there is less than 4 mets, possibly 5, they don't give you docetaxel. If you have more than 4 or 5 mets, they do give you docetaxel, and when you're done with that, they give you abiraterone. And they don't give the two together because they think that the side effects can be too heavy.
Got it.
So as far as I know, Gary, when you were diagnosed, you had no indication, right?
I had spread to 2 of 3 lymph nodes on the right side.
Oh, that's okay. So, yeah, okay. So that would not have qualified you for docetaxel, nor is there any indication you should start docetaxel now. If you were with certain oncologists like Dr. Schultz, he might put you on docetaxel. He's been known to do that, but most doctors would not.
Got it. Thank you.
Although, Rick, I know somebody who started on ADT just 2 months ago and who's going to go on abiraterone in addition to it tomorrow.
Yeah, but that's not what we were talking about, Joe. We were saying we're talking about doing chemotherapy plus abiraterone at the same time.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Sorry.
All right, let's go to Kang next.
Thanks, Len. I've started my 5th session of SBRT, the first session today. I noticed the dosage was 725 C gray. Is that dosage seems normal or lighter or heavier to your experience?
Normal.
It's normal. It's not heavier or lighter.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's all I need to know. Thank you. Thanks.
Very good. Nice and short. Okay, Julian Morales.
Just a quick update. I went to see Dr. E, and he did mention a few names of people on this call, but she was very thorough. This is a piece of paper, and I don't know if you can see it, but she spent almost an hour and a half with me and is getting me on board with abiraterone and prednisone. So things are looking well for me.
All right, Julian, glad to hear the positive report. Now let's go to Les Shelderup.
Okay, I did go up to the Mayo Clinic for C11 choline PET scan. My PSA is slowly, it is rising, but it's up to 0.69, but it is going up and I'm still on Eligard. They didn't find a great deal of change in the PET scan, so there isn't too much addition. They're going to see if they can get me a PSMA scan to see if that'll show anything different. That's
Okay,
about
so
it.
what's your PSA? 0.069 or 0.69?
0.69.
Well, 0.69, you should be able to get a result with a PSMA scan.
Yeah,
And-
well, yeah, we'll see if we get. They have to set it up or see if they can get me in.
Well,
they're going to have to contact me this week. They couldn't give me any information at the time. It was like late Friday or mid Friday at the time. So
let me ask you, what type of PET of PSMA scan are they talking about, Les?
Well, frankly, I was afraid you were going to ask that. I didn't have enough information when I asked about it. They said they will talk to you about it when they call.
Okay, you should be able to get a Prolaris scan.
Okay.
I don't know whether they're doing them at Mayo, but if they're not doing them at Mayo, it shouldn't be that hard to get a Prolaris scan right now. It's probably going to be much harder to get a gallium-68 scan. The Prolaris scans are being pretty much right the way around the country now. They've got production centers going right the way around the country. The big issue is going to be what we've been talking about quite a bit tonight, which is getting somebody to read that scan that knows what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
And before long, that'll be solved too with this AI. So you should, what I want to say is if they're not going to give it to you, then we'd recommend you go somewhere else where you can get it. Because these C11 scans, they just don't show. We know they don't show at that lower level. And that's the problem. You know, I mean, right now, they've got a production facility, Prolaris, in Minneapolis. So I would think that Mayo could give them if they wanted to, but sometimes Mayo doesn't. They don't want to jump on board, especially with the doctors involved. A certain doctor who lives and dies by the C11 scan. But you can't wait on that. You need a PSMA scan sooner rather than later, because then we can, if there's not too many Mets, we can nail it.
Yeah. Well, he was not objecting to get it. He was the one that suggested it to me. I had it on my notes, going to say something about it, but he brought it up first.
Okay.
All right. Last but not least, we go to John.
Well, Len, I don't want to steamroller over Les. I want you to. I mean, what would you say about this?
Well, the same thing you just said. He needs a PSMA scan. The C11 is never going to pick up a 0.69 PSA.
Okay. Okay.
All right. John McPhee, are you up?
I am. I'm awake too.
Good.
So my question is, I've been on Lupron for a year now, and my PSA has been undetectable for the last 6 months. My testosterone has been undetectable for a lot longer than that. And how long do I need to stay on this? Now, from what I hear from you guys talking, what I'm complaining about is the least of the whole bunch, right? I got hot flashes. I got one of these Embr things. It helps. I'm in Canada, so I had to actually pay for it because they couldn't have me in their study. It was worth it. Do I need to be on this for 18 months, 2 years, 3 years? Like, is this the best option at this point, or it's under my control, right? I just say, no, I'm not taking any more.
Well,
Any
John, I don't know about the other guys, but I forgot your history. Could you just very briefly tell us what
in March, I had a PSA of 11.8. I got Gleason 8. Turns out my cancer was on one side, and so I got stereotactic body irradiation, 5 shots over 2 weeks for the whole gland, and then I got high density HDR brachy.
Yeah.
On the one side that had cancer, and it was up in my seminal vesicle, and been on Lupron from just before that, and that's it.
So when you were diagnosed, John, were you metastatic?
No.
Okay, so my rule of thumb for myself, for other people, because I know you were T3A, and I know you had, I can see it now, and I posted this in the chat window for the organizers. I know you had seminal vesicle invasion.
Yes.
The guys that I know have had seminal vesicle invasion have had to be really, really careful. Shorter is definitely better than longer. If it were me and I had SVI, I would stay on absolute minimum 18 months, if not 2 years. And how long did you say you've been on right now?
A year.
Well, if it were, I wouldn't even think about it unless getting off of it, unless I've been on for 18 months. And if it were me, I think I'd stay on for a good 2 years. I've seen too many guys, T3As, come off SVI, and the next thing you know, their disease is back, and then they're doing more, and then they're doing chemo, and all because they didn't do their time first up. So I can't give you medical advice, but I know for sure if it were me, I'd be looking at 2 years, and if I was really having a tough time, I might pull off earlier, but I would be looking at 2 years. That's my 2 cents.
That's exactly the kind of advice I was looking for. I'm doing okay now. I finally got my weight under control, and but my strength and endurance is slowly going down over time. But compared to all the other drugs and chemo and God knows what, I got nothing to whine about at all. It's like I'm complaining about a hangnail, right?
Well, I think, and I know you've heard it before, and I know how tough it is when you get past that 12-month period. You basically got to figure out, I'm going to do one thing today, what's it going to be, and then you do it. And then you don't have any energy to do anything else. But if you can make that one thing a decent amount of exercise, and you've got to be doing some resistance, you've got to be doing some weights, switch that off with a little bit of aerobic. And if you can hang in and keep your strength going, and it will wane. I mean, mine did too, but it did come back afterwards.
Okay, good.
Anyone else want to give some? Anybody else had seminal vesicle invasion or a similar situation, and how long they stayed on? I might be the closest guy to you on this call right now, because so many of these guys were diagnosed de novo metastatic. I mean, Gary Peters, how long How long did they tell you you had to stay on? Were you de novo? Yeah, you were de novo metastatic with the lymph nodes, right?
Right. Carducci said probably 2 years.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else get an estimate up front?
Yeah, Rick, this is George here. My case is very similar to yours.
Thanks.
I was recommended to stay on minimum 18 months, and the best is 18 months to 36 months. And
Yep.
so far, we've decided on 2 years, but I've only been on it for 4 months, so we'll see how that goes.
Right. Thanks for piping up, George. I mean,
You're welcome.
This is what I want you to hear, John. It's so that you know it's not just coming from my bias. Okay.
No, I realize that what I'm doing now is probably the easiest thing that I can do to deal with this. That
Yeah.
everything else, if it gets worse, everything else gets worse too. Side effects, the whole package. And so, okay, I can deal with this. Thank you. I'm good with that.
Rick, Dr. E told me about 18 months.
Sorry, who was that? Was that you, Julian?
Julian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. E told me about 18 months.
Right.
And if sooner, if it's all something different.
Right. All right. And I think we lost Bruce Bochian, and we'll get him back next week, but he is doing something absolutely wonderful, and he'll tell you about it next week. God bless him for what he's doing. But I don't want to steal his thunder.
Okay, guys, thanks for sticking with us. 24
Herb, stay on.
minutes, but what's that?
You guys,
I want Herb to stay on. I want to talk to him for a minute. I want a quick report.
okay, I'll stay on.
Thank you.
For anybody else who wants to stay on, I'll give you a report. I mean,
there you go.
I'll listen. I've been wanting to go fishing.
Hey, Muslim,
First,
you on this.
Where are you fishing? Or where are you?
I am in Syria, Virginia, at a very old 100-year-old quote resort, surrounded by trout streams.
Okay.
And so tonight was more of a bonding exercise to talk to other, I mean, basically what might happen at Speaking Freely.
Okay.
And then where I actually, I definitely have a guy for our blood cancer group who desperately needs a group. And so he was going to join our blood cancer group.
Right.
So, but then tomorrow begins the fishing. Tomorrow morning, they give you waders, they give you a fishing rod, and they said the guys who did it today said there are tons of fish in the stream. They're just waiting for us. So maybe I'll catch something.
Like a cold?
No, actually,
Preferably a fish,
I mean, it's
yeah.
a little chilly outside, but it's supposed to be, they said it's going to be warm tomorrow with the waders on and whatever. They said it's going to be absolutely beautiful weather. It's sunny. And it's beautiful here. I have to say, it's right near the Shenandoahs. So the scenery is beautiful, although amazingly, it's not fall color yet. It's still all green.
How many guys are there?
There are 14. Evidently, so there are 14 first timers, and there are an equal number of guides. So you're paired with somebody. And what's interesting is that they haven't had one for 2 years because of COVID. So they're all really like hot to trot to do this. And then will also being filmed for one of the morning shows. The Today Show is coming with a crew to film this event. They're bringing film crew and a drone to watch us in the stream. So, well, who knows how it's going to end up.
Right. I want to share something with you. I wrote up on Sunday to wish him luck.
Yes.
And he said he was charging up his underwater camera. Now, I just want to say, we're all hoping that he doesn't have to use that camera underwater.
I hope it's not underwater, but the point is, if I drop it in the stream, I don't lose the camera.
Okay.
The waterproof camera. So I will try to, and I can take pictures of the fish.
That's right.
Have you done fly fishing before?
Never.
Never? And so you didn't have to bring any equipment?
No, they said they give you everything. They give you the waders, the rod, and so you're okay. So just had to bring clothing and get here. So, which is fine.
And they feed you?
They fed us. So this is an old-fashioned resort. They serve family style. So they bring out lots and lots of food, only it's pretty mediocre. You know, it's not the Catskills.
I've heard from some of the other guys the food was great. You pulled the short trout.
Well, maybe we'll find out more. We'll see if it gets better tomorrow.
Okay.
But tonight's dinner was really overcooked broccoli, overcooked Brussels sprouts, just like you might have gotten back in the UK, Rick. And
if you catch a fish, do you keep it or throw it back?
No, catch and release. All catch and release.
Oh, it should make you, that food like that should make you feel good. You know, it's like a very good friend of mine, David Rosenwasser, used to say, Jewish food only comes in shades of brown.
Right. So it has, yeah, they did serve what they said was a beef stew, but I couldn't find the beef.
Where's the beef?
Right, where was the beef? But otherwise, look, I think I'm going to come away saying that this is good for everybody. So far, it's not just the fishing.
Yeah.
And how many days, Herb?
It's through Wednesday at 2:00. So we fish tomorrow and we fish on Wednesday.
All right.
Very good.
Muslin, it's Real Recovery, relrecovery.org, and you just need to sign up. We got Herb to do it, and the next thing they know, they're calling him on a cancellation, and then he's here. He's gone to Syria.
You're right. So, anyhow, I will give him next Tuesday when I'm in the chair. I'll maybe take a minute or two to tell you all about it after it's over.
Love it. And have fun.
Let us know when the Today Show is going to air that segment.
We don't know. I mean, you know, they're going to be here for 2 days and they'll be 3 minutes.
All right, say hello to Matt Langer for us.
Still recording. Somebody, Jake, I don't think we need to record this.
Well, I didn't know where to stop. So yeah, I just figured I'll just let it run.
Anyway, guys, I miss you all and I'll see you all next week.
Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.